Good morning. Welcome back to yet another section of Signatures Expressing the Self. We are going through the third chapter in second module, a solitary human voice, except from Voices from Chernobyl, the oral history of a nuclear disaster. Our author is Svetlana Alexievich. She was born in Ivano-Frankivsk, Ukraine in 1948 and has spent most of her life in the Soviet Union and present-day Belarus, with prolonged periods of exile in Western Europe. Starting out as a journalist, she developed her own non-fiction genre, which gathers a chorus of voices to describe a specific historical moment. Her works include What's Unwomanly Face, Last Witnesses, Singy Boys, Voices from Chernobyl, The Oral History of a Nuclear Disaster, and Second Hand Time. She has won many international awards, including the 2015 Nobel Prize in Literature for her polyphonic writings, a monument to suffering and courage in our time. Through this module, we are going to enjoy or understand her very famous work, Voices from Chernobyl. On April 26, 1986, the worst nuclear reactor accident in history occurred in Chernobyl and contaminated as much as 3/4 of Europe. Voices from Chernobyl is the first book to present personal accounts of the tragedy. Journalist Svetlana Alexievich interviewed hundreds of people affected by the meltdown, from innocent citizens to firefighters to those called in to clean up the disaster, and their stories reveal the fear, anger, and uncertainty with which they still live. Comprised of interviews in monologue form, Voices from Chernobyl is a crucially important work, unforgettable in its emotional power and honesty. The different perspectives of those Svetlana Alexievich listened to come through a heart-rending stories. One of the speakers concludes, "You can write the rest of this yourself. I don't want to talk anymore." The others allows the words of those who lived and many who still live in the affected areas to tell their own story. It is a catalogue of trauma, of lives which were disturbed by events so cataclysmic that the effects rippled around the whole planet. Voices from Chernobyl, which won the National Book Critics Circle Award, is a compilation of interviews with survivors of the nuclear reactor accident. They were newlyweds and they were staying in the dormitory of the fire station at the time of the accident. At night, she woke up from her sleep hearing a noise. Her husband informed her that a fire had broken out at the reactor and had been called for duty. She remembers that the heat was unbearable and the sky was radiant. Nobody was informed about the gravity of the situation, and the fireman did not take any precautions. The next day, she found her husband in the hospital. His body was swollen and puffed up. The doctors told her that he was exposed to radiation and she should not go near him or touch him as she was pregnant. Most of them admitted in the hospital were throwing up and there were put on IVs. Their body reacted as if they were exposed to chemicals. The doctors and nurses who initially treated these firemen later succumbed to death due to radiation. The government transported them to hospital number 6 at the Shukhinskaya bus stop in Moscow for further treatment in radiology department. The head radiologist Angelina Vasilievna Guskova explained Lyudmila Ignatyenko about the condition of her husband. His central nervous system was completely affected and skull was also damaged. She was prevented from going near him or touching him. The doctors also advised her not to have kids anymore as she might be exposed to radiation. She narrates in detail the last 2 weeks she spent with him in the hospital at Moscow. At the hospital, his condition worse as days went by, and the body began to change. The doctors already informed her about how body reacts differently to radiation. While narrating, she repeatedly says that it is impossible to say that it is impossible to put down what she has seen in words. Her narration is deeply personal with feelings of love towards her husband, anxiety, fear and despair. So all of you please take the page number 80. Actually till that we already went through in our last class. Okay. Okay, I think all of you understood the life of Vasily Ignatyenko. We already noticed that it was a tragic death, and at the time of his death, his wife was in the hotel, and she don't know why she reached here. Actually, she didn't leave him like this before, but she had the tendency to spend the time in the room of that hospital, of that hotel, and she started to lie down in the floor. When she woke up from his sleep, when she called the nurse, she identified the reality: her husband died. We already understood she escorted him all the way to the cemetery, and she is speaking about the last journey of her husband. So I'm sorry, actually the page number 82, not 80, page number 82. Okay, so all of you are ready with the page number 82. At the morgue, they said, "Want to see what we will dress him?" I did. They dressed him up in formal wear with his service cap, and even they also gave the permission to her to follow them to the mortuary, and they already asked her, if you want to see him, how they are dress him in. Then she nodded. Then they started to dress him up in formal wear with his service cap, because he was a firefighter in that Chernobyl reactor. They couldn't get shoes on him because his feet had swelled up. So actually for them it is compulsory to wear the shoes for the final journey, but for him it is not possible because his feet had swelled up. They had to cut up the formal wear too because they couldn't get it on him. There wasn't a whole body to put it on. The last 2 days in the hospital, pieces of his lungs, of his liver were coming out of his mouth. Can you imagine? His internal organs started to come outside, even the lungs, liver. All these internal organs started to come through his mouth. He was talking and put it in his mouth. He was choking on his internal organs. Choking means unable to breathe. Because of these internal organs, when they started to come outside, he couldn't get the breath. I would wrap my hand in a bandage and put it in his mouth. Take out all that stuff. It's impossible to talk about. It's impossible to write about. And even to live through. They couldn't get a single pair of shoes to fit him. They buried him barefoot. So she says, it is not possible to describe what already happened in that mortuary while they were dressing him in. It's not possible to write down all the facts. Finally, she revealed that without a shoe, they already sent him because it is not possible to arrange a shoe for him. I already told you his feet had swelled up. So that is why they buried him barefoot. Everyone came, his parents, my parents. They bought black handkerchiefs in Moscow. The emergency commission met with us. They told everything the same thing. They told everyone the same thing. It is impossible for us to give you the bodies of your husbands, your sons. They are very radioactive and will be buried in a Moscow cemetery in a special way. In sealed zinc caskets under cement tiles. And you need to sign this document here. So we can see that his and her relatives reached to attend his ceremony. But actually it is not the formal ceremony. Because of this situation, it is not possible. That is why the doctors already revealed all the truth towards the relatives of him. And we can see that they already arranged zinc caskets because of this radioactivity. Then he was sealed in zinc caskets under cement tiles. She had to sign this document here. If anyone got indignant and wanted to take the coffin back home, they were told that the dead were now, heroes, and that they no longer belonged to their families. They were heroes of the state. They belonged to the state. After this procedure, they already revealed that her husband was also one of the heroes. So that is why heroes, they became the heroes of the state. All the victims, all the firefighters who involved in this disaster, they are the victims. They are the heroes. They are the heroes of the state. So they belong to the state. Right away, they brought us plane tickets back home. For the next day, at home, I fell asleep. I walked into the place and just fell onto the bed. I slept for 3 days. An ambulance came. No, said the doctor. She will wake up. It's just a terrible sleep. After the death of her husband, can you imagine the situation, the real situation of his wife, Ludmilla? She started to sleep, and even they already arranged, the government already arranged all the plane tickets back home. When they reached at home, she walked into the place and just fell onto the bed. She started to sleep for 3 days. Finally, the ambulance came. Then the doctor said, no, because of this mental strain, she had fallen to sleep. It's just a terrible sleep. I was 23. 2 months later, I went back to Moscow. From the train station, straight to the cemetery, to him. And at the cemetery, I started going into labor. Just as I started talking to him, they called the ambulance. It was 2 weeks before I was due. Due means expected to give birth. Due means page number 83, second paragraph. Due means expected to give birth. You know, when she is facing all these tragedies in her life, she was just 23-year-old. After 2 months of her husband's death, she went back to Moscow. She visited her husband's cemetery. When she started to talk with her husband, within seconds itself, the ambulance reached there because she was very closer to her delivery. They showed her to me, a girl, Nadashenka. I called out her. Your father named you Nadashenka. She looked healthy, arm's length, but she had cirrhosis of the liver. Her liver had 28 roentgens. Congenital heart disease. 4 hours later, they told me she has died. And again, we won't give her to you. What do you mean you won't give her to me? It's me who won't give her to you. Okay, we can see that from the cemetery she reached to the hospital for her delivery. Then after the delivery, they already showed her their baby, their daughter. When she saw her baby, she called their baby as Nadashenka, because I think all of you remembered well, he already suggested that name, Nadasha. So she started to call her daughter as Nadashenka. She also revealed that your father fixed or selected this name. When she looked at their daughter, she felt that she looked very healthy. But you know, actually, this girl was suffered with liver cirrhosis and also the congenital heart disease. That means the inborn heart disease. 4 hours later, they already informed her their daughter died. They couldn't save their daughter. She is silent for a long time. Again, she was forced to face another tragedy in her life. You know that it is happened just 2 months after her husband's death. In Kiev, they gave me an apartment. It was in a large building where they put everyone from the atomic station. It's a big apartment with 2 rooms, the kind Vasya and I had dreamed of. Then the government already gave an apartment for her in Kiev. Actually, it was very large building. Actually, they put everyone from the atomic station here. It's a apartment with 2 rooms. Both of them, the husband and wife, they already dreamed to possess such an apartment. She stands up, goes over to the window. There are many of us here, a whole street. That's what it's called, Chernobylskaya. These people worked at the station their whole lives. A lot of them still go there to work on a provisional basis. That's how they work there now. No one lives there anymore. They have bad diseases. They are invalids, but they don't leave their jobs. They are scared to even think of reactor closing down. Who needs them now anywhere else? Often they die in a minute. They just drop someone, will be walking, he falls, goes to sleep. He was carrying flowers for his nurse and his heart stopped. They die. But no one's really asked us. No one's asked what we have been through, what we saw. No one wants to hear about death, about what scares them. Okay, I already told you she was shifted to the apartment in Kiev. It was very spacious apartment. There were 2 big rooms. Both husband and wife dreamed to possess such an apartment in their life. But when she reached here, her husband was not at all with her. Then we can see that there are so many victims of the Chernobyl disaster. They are living in this apartment. Then the people worked at the station their whole lives because they already lost their hopes in their life. So they wanted to spend the rest of their lifetime here. Many of them did many jobs. A lot of them still go there to work on a provisional basis. That is how they work there now. No one lives there anymore. They have bad diseases. They are invalids. Actually, they knew it very well because they have their own bad diseases. They can't survive the life. So, they are expecting death at any time. But they were ready to face the life. They were ready to work hard till the end of their life without any hope. But they don't leave their jobs. They are scared to even think of the reactor closing down. Can you imagine? It's a life situation which people are facing. They are the victims. They suffered a lot. They already lost everything in their life. But still, they are ready to live until their death. So I am speaking about the inhabitants in that apartment in Kiev. Even they suffered a lot. They already lost all the precious things in their lives. But they can't imagine the situation, the reactor closing down, because even they had their own physical problems. They have their own diseases, even the bad diseases, because they already affected by this radioactive. Whatever it is, they are ready to work till their death. Who needs them now anywhere else? Often they die in a minute. Even they are expecting their death at any moment. Even in their step also, they are expecting the death. But they were confident to live. They just drop someone, will be walking. He falls, goes to sleep. He was carrying flowers for his nurse and his heart stopped. Can you imagine the situation? Even the victims, they are carrying the flowers. They want to give the flowers for their doctors. Even in that steps, they are facing death. They die. But no one's really asked us. No one's asked what we have been through, what we saw. No one wants to hear about death, about what scares them. But you know, the another positive thing among them, they didn't speak about the tragedy. They didn't speak about the death. Even in front of their eyes, they witnessed the death of their familiar or favorite people. Whatever it is, they didn't speak about their death. They didn't want to speak about the topic death. And they didn't want to speak about the scaring things in their lives, their past and even their present. They just focus to work hard till the last breath. But I was telling you about love, about my love. I already told you, Svetlana Alexievich, she interviewed more than 100 victims of Chernobyl disaster. She's interviewed the common people who suffered a lot in this disaster. Even she already documented the same dialogue of the victims with their consent, with their permission. Even they already revealed that, the victims already revealed that it is not possible to complete these words. You can. They already gave the permission to the author herself. But here, I told you this book, Voices from Chernobyl, starts and ends with the life of two widows. So here we are speaking about the wife of deceased fireman Vasily Ignenko. Wife name is Lyudmila Ignenko. So here when Lyudmila Ignenko narrates her life connecting with the disaster, she points out that I was telling you about my love, not about the tragedy. That is why Voices from Chernobyl, it is a crucially important work, unforgettable in its emotional power and honesty. More than that, Lyudmila Ignenko, she is very strong woman, just 23 years old. She already lost her husband and their daughter because of this Chernobyl disaster. she faced the maximum throughout her life. But she says, I want to speak about it is the story of our love. It is the story of our love only. So we can feel the intimacy, the sincere love between Vasily Ignatенко and Lyudmila Ignatенко. I think all of you traveled with Svetlana Alexievich. You also understood the real life story of Lyudmila Ignatенко and Vasily Ignatенko. So let us go through the question answers in the textbook. Page number 84. Svetlana Alexievich won the Nobel Prize for Literature in which year? Yes, 2015. The excerpt is taken from the book. It is the very famous book Voices from Chernobyl. Voices from Chernobyl records the worst nuclear reactor accident in Chernobyl in the year, you don't forget the year, April 26, 1986. Whose voice is recorded here? Who is narrating the life story? Yes, it is none other than Lyudmila Ignatенko. Name the deceased firefighter, the husband of Lyudmila Ignatенko, Vasily Ignatенko. Okay, then we can move to the short questions. What was Vasily Ignatенko's job? Where did he work? Okay, he was a firefighter in Chernobyl reactor. He was the first firefighter who responded to the fire at reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. You can refer the page number 74. Okay. How was Vasily Ignatенko after the explosion? I think all of you remembered well. His physical condition was changed a lot by every day. His body was swollen and puffed up at first. Then his body degenerated so badly that even the internal organs, liver and lungs, began to come out, and he was choking off his internal organs. It was very difficult for him to take breath because the internal organs started to come out. Similarly, his skin and hair began to peel off and body produced stools with mucus and blood frequently. Then we can see that the changes in his skin color and also the hair started to fall. More than that, his body produced stool minimum 25 times in a day with mucus and blood frequently. Then the third question, why was Lyudmila not allowed to go near her husband? I think all of you remembered well the reason, because of the radioactivity. More than that, she is pregnant. The doctors told her that he was exposed to radiation and she shouldn't go near him or touch him as she was pregnant. Then the fourth question, what did Lyudmila name her baby and why? Have you remembered the name? Yes, she called her daughter as Nadashenka because her husband told her to call their daughter as Nadasha. How did her baby die? How did her baby die? Okay. By birth itself, the baby girl had liver cirrhosis and congenital heart disease. because I think she is the victim of this radioactive. So I think all of you understood these question answers we discussed based on this chapter. Okay, so all of you go through Svetlana Alexievich excerpt from Voices from Chernobyl. Definitely you can feel the life of Lyudmila Ignenko and Vasily Ignenko. We will meet in the next class with a new chapter. Thank you.